Thank you, Honorable Member. It has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a second time and committed. A bill for an act to amend the Immigration Act. As many, the chair recognizes the Honorable Member for East Grand Bahama.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy. It is again a privilege to be able to stand in this honorable place and to speak on this bill. Mr. Deputy, it is also a privilege to be able to speak on behalf of the good and special people of the East Grand Bahama constituency. Mr. Deputy, let me first say that we on this side support this immigration amendment bill. You know, Mr. Deputy, it was a privilege again to serve as the minister that had responsibility for DTAD, and this was actually one of those initiatives that we had talked about, but the pandemic came and we had to adjust. Instead of doing the immigration card, we had to actually adjust to do the travel visa. So, Mr. Deputy, we support this. I think this is actually a important and necessary step, less so for immigration, but more so for tourism and for tourism development. So I agree with most of what the member for Exuma said, and also the member for Fort Charlotte, that this has, I believe, the potential to increase tourism development. It has the potential, I believe, to transform the digitization with respect to visitors coming to the Bahamas. You know, Mr. Deputy, digitization really, or government's digitization is really a huge part of, or should be a huge part of what the government ought to be focusing on. I know that the member for Bain and Grantstown has been continuing the project that we had initially started. But every aspect of our lives, we are moving more towards a digital society. Whether it is e-commerce, you know, nowadays it is almost second nature to go on Amazon and purchase things from Amazon. It is almost second nature to go on DHgate and purchase things from China, purchase things from Walmart. You have the world on your phone that you are able to proceed with, and so it was a crying shame, really, that persons we would require visitors to now fill out a manual form. And then that manual form, then we had to actually manually put that information in. Mr. Deputy, sometimes the crises, or when you are in crisis, that forces your hand to move towards the digitization process. And that was what I believe initially started the My Gateway program, which is an example of what could be the Estonia's X-Road project, but it really is an example of what should be, instead of the government, or instead of that the government ought to be working for the people, instead of the people working for the government. And that ought to be sort of all of our mantra. It should be all on all of our agenda, that we should be putting in place services to make life easier for Bahamians. And in this one, we are putting in place a service, which I agree with, to make life easier for the visitor who is able to come to our shores. But we must be putting in place those services, enhancing those digital services that make life easier for Bahamians. One of those services would have been the passport renewal process, where we saw the passport renewal process being moved online, and that had tremendously dealt with the time frames that Bahamians had to wait in order for their passports to be renewed, being able to upload their documents, pay for the passport to be renewed, and then be able to get their passport back within 14 days. And it took away those months and months of waiting to be able to manually put in an application and then manually process that application. We did it also for driver's license renewal, where you were able to apply to renew your driver's license through the My Gateway program. You were able to pay for it. They were able to renew it and then set a designated place and time for you to go and collect your driver's license. We also did it again for the passport, for the driver's license, and for the police certificate. You are now able to go on the My Gateway and apply for your police certificate, apply online for it, pay for it, and then they will give you a designated time and place to go and collect your police certificate. But I believe, Mr. Deputy, there's so much more that we ought to be thinking about and we ought to be doing in reference to moving My Gateway forward, putting in place even more services for the My Gateway platform. And again, it is not a criticism of the present government, but it is just an encouragement that we ought to be looking at doing additional services and putting additional services on the My Gateway platform. At one point, there was the Ministry of Finance, where you were able to apply for different concessions. You were able to do that. I believe you have added, Ministry of Labor has added their applications onto the My Gateway platform. I know at one point we had put in place for the election process, the advanced poll persons were able to apply through the My Gateway platform. They were able to do it online, and they were able to register for the advanced poll online as well. That's, again, Mr. Deputy, speaks to the potential of what we are able to do. For example, you are now able to apply to incorporate a company online. And you are also able to apply for your business license online. Well, Mr. Deputy, I remember us visiting Estonia, and they have a dual process to where you can apply to incorporate a company, to obtain a business license, all in the same process, and you are able to get your approval within hours. You are able to get your approval. So I believe there's more that we can be doing in terms of if we've moved an online process through the Registrar General's office to incorporate a company, but you have to go to the Inland Revenue website to get a business license. I think what we can do in terms of moving our system forward, because most businesses will require to have a business license to do business. So we ought to be looking at how could we combine these processes so that persons are able to get a business license, incorporate a company with one application, and be able to produce that approval in record times, meaning within 24 hours, because that's where the world is at. The world is at where you are able to apply for these things and you are able to obtain these things within a matter of 24 hours. And so if we want to be really competitive in terms of digital transformation, these are some of the things that I believe that we ought to be looking at. Also, Mr. Deputy, I believe we also ought to be looking at how do we incorporate the once-only principle, where if the government of the Bahamas has a piece of information about you, then no other government department is able to ask you for that piece of information. And so, again, it is a you know, our processes sometimes when we think about it seems difficult and cumbersome, because if you want to apply for renewal of your passport, if you want to apply for or if you want to apply for anything, you have to produce your passport or your national insurance card, which means that you have to go to another government office and obtain that physical information, and then take that physical information back to another government office and produce that same information to that government office. Well, instead of us looking at services vertically, we should be looking at services horizontally. That if a government has a piece of information about you, that government department, it is that government department's responsibility to obtain that same information from the other government department, as opposed to you collecting from the government department, physically going and taking it to another government department. It should be where those government departments are digitally connected and then can go ahead and transfer that information to from one government department to another government department. I believe we have to. I believe we have to. Also, Mr. Deputy, we should also be moving towards a situation where, and I believe the member for Bain and Grandstand is in the process of proceeding with this, this process, but we should be moving to a real digital ID. Right now, we have a driver's license, we have a national insurance card, and we have a passport. But we should really be moving towards a digital ID, a mobile digital ID. I think the ID, even with where Estonia had, they already moved from a digital card. They are now, in terms of having their digital ID on their phone. So it's now a mobile ID. So if somebody asks you for an ID, you always have your phone with you. You are able to produce your digital ID through your phone. And that digital ID can be used for national insurance purposes. It could be used for driver's license purposes. And it should technically also be able to be used for passport purposes as well. But I believe that we are, instead of having these three different types of identification, again, from the same government, because you get the NIB, you get the passport, and you get the driver's license, all from the same government. And so we should be moving towards where we can combine these identifications and use them digitally through our telephone, Mr. Deputy. Mr. Deputy, moving to the bill. Again, and some questions that I had, I believe, were answered. A little of those questions, or some of those questions, were answered by both of the speakers. So my question would have been, had you chosen a company to produce a digital ID, and I guess you had already said that Canadian Banknote, I believe, is the company that is continuing this process, that they were the ones that dealt with the entire immigration transformation, and so Canadian Banknote may be the company that is now proceeding with dealing with this particular process. They're not involved in this. Not that app. Okay, all right. So the question then would be, it's not a question of who, but the question is a process of, was there a, okay, it's proceeding, fine. You go ahead.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Exuma on Regular Island.
The process of selecting a provider for this particular app is underway. It will be Bahamian. It will not be the Canadian banknote system.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
and that process is the actual declaration process you're talking about, or is that's underway? Okay, very well. So I think then we look forward to seeing the public bidding process that will go. I'm sure that there are a lot of Bahamian entrepreneurs who would hope to be able to benefit from being able to, it doesn't matter, but we hope that there are a number of Bahamians who would be look towards being able to bid towards that particular project. But the value of that platform, as I said, is not just about immigration, but this really is about tourism. And because you already have the electronic passports that, and you still have to stop at immigration and get approval from immigration to enter the country. But the value of this really is the tourism information that you are able to get from that visitor. You're able to understand who is coming to the country. You're able to see where they're coming from. You're able to get real-time information about what they're interested in, about who their families are, what the income of those persons are, what their average spend is. And again, as the member for Exuma said, which I completely agree with, is you are able to use AI to be able to process all of this information and then be able to send out particular marketing issues, to send out marketing in real-time information, but with the data to back up the marketing information that you are sending out. How are you promoting the Bahamas? You are able then to tailor-make these things, tailor-make a program based upon the information that you have gotten from real-life people. Also, a question is, will you at some point charge to be able to fill out this card? Because the government has to pay for this process. It has to pay to set up the website. It has to pay to put these things online. It has to pay for persons to be able to use this process. So will the visitor, in order to fill out this immigration card, will you be considering charging the visitor $1 or $2, whatever that cost is, to be able to take care of the cost of them being able of you being able to produce this online process? But there's also value in producing income from that particular website, and so it is something where I would say we should move towards this with caution, because there is a great potential to be able to use this website for income. So if you think about it, every single visitor would have to go to this website to fill in this card. Think about the value of being able to access information of 9 million or 8 million people a year, to be able to access the information of 9 million persons a year. Think about being able to access 9 million email addresses, 9 million names and addresses. That information, that data is so valuable that should be owned by the Bahamas. We should make sure that is owned by the Bahamas government, and make sure that the Bahamas government is able to utilize it. Mr. Deputy, again, this is something that I support. This is something that those of us on this side support. It is something that I believe has, even when it comes to Bahamians benefiting from this website, if I'm a Bahamian tourism vendor, I would hope that I would have an opportunity to advertise my business on that website, because you have 9 million people who are coming to this website and seeing your advertisement on this website. It is and not only this isn't sort of just trying to attract people to come to the Bahamas. This is in real time being able to advertise to people who are on their way to the Bahamas. So think about a tourist, a travel agent, or a tour operator, or a taxi driver being able to put their ad or their advertisement on this website. It has tremendous benefit. It has tremendous income potential that I believe Bahamians should be able to have an opportunity to tap into, that Bahamians should have an opportunity to advertise on, and Bahamians have an opportunity to be able to use and utilize as well. So, Mr. Deputy, as I said, we on this side, we support this, this initiative. We are hopeful to be able to see the public bidding process of the actual website and app. And again, we encourage the government to continue to move forward with respect to the digital transformation. It has a great deal of potential to benefit not just the government themselves, but to benefit the public. And when we are looking at services, we should be looking at services that will enhance and make life easier for Bahamians and make the government serve the people instead of the people serving the government. So, Mr. Deputy, that's my contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. As many?